All right. All right. I changed it on YouTube. Okay.
All right. Are you
Cool.
done? Are you ready for us to go live?
Are we live?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Dang it. Why weren't you your usual Kirsta V self?
At least I'm not eating today.
That would have been so good if it would have just captured an F-bomb or something.
These people know me. They wouldn't have been surprised.
True. It's in their body. Hello, everyone. This is starting to feel like a regular show, just like a talk show or something. I got my coffee mug. Isn't that what's necessary for a coffee show set?
Yes.
All right.
What's that coffee mug say? Nice. Cape up and clock in. What?
Cape up and clock in. That's what you all are doing. You're caping up, clocking in, engaging. We love seeing all the stuff on the Facebook group.
So
you guys are sharing your outlines, some of your content. I saw a few people responding to your content saying that it was eye-opening and really valuable. And one of the things that's important for this is not in our notes, so I'm about to take this in a 20-minute detour.
Perfect.
I'll keep it down to 30 seconds though. But one of the things that's important with creating content is to publish it in a safe place. Publish it in a group of people that are also doing the same thing. The reason that most of us are afraid of publishing content is because of the backlash. And sometimes we just need it to get out, and we need to know, like, we'll usually put it out there and then kind of retreat, cover ourselves up, get ready for the slap. And when it doesn't happen, then it tells our body there are areas where we can safely share our voice. And that's a gradual process that most of us need to go through. So this Facebook group is one of those areas where it allows you to get your content out in a safe, supportive place. All right. Oh, there's so much to talk about there. This class is going to be about conversion content. Now, not all of you are here. Not all of you in your business are at a place where your next step is conversion. But you have to understand where you're going to. You have to understand that part of this process is for a purpose out there. Because if you don't understand what the purpose of your creation is, there's a kind of creation that we now call, after about 4 minutes ago, conversion content, which is different than just attention getting content or just expression content or a few different types of content. We'll have to break these types down. Conversion content is content that converts. Now, what that means is people will take a step. That doesn't necessarily mean that they'll buy something. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to join an email list or not explicitly, but like tangibly do anything. Sometimes it does, but not always. It could be the next step is to write a letter or think about something, change a perspective. But if we want to lead people, they need to be taking steps.
Right.
And some content shuts people down, and some content invites implementation and invites motion. What'd you just respond to there?
If we want to lead people, they have to be taking steps. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, otherwise we're just entertaining people.
Which is fine, right? That's actually another form of content.
Correct. Yeah, which goes back to alignment. Alignment. What's the right kind of content? I don't know. What are you trying to do with it?
Right.
Are you just trying to get stuff out of your face? Are you trying to get people to take a step? Are you wanting to sell a program? Is this for you? Is it for them? There's all kinds of intentions that need to be known for us to say, okay, do this when there's different types of this.
Right.
So if there's different types of content, there's no such thing as the right way to do content. We never dissected it like this actually until right now. And that's one of the powerful things that happens when we answer other people's questions is I was thinking about the video yesterday that ended up going super long, and it was Q&A, and we were answering people's questions. One of the things that happens when you answer questions, you have thoughts that you didn't have before, because when you're in service answering question mode, you're not going off of a script. You're not, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything live. Of course, you can take questions and write notes on them, but somebody else is teeing it up for you. Yeah. I basically did a Q&A session like for 2 hours yesterday, and somebody was just firing me questions, and it was amazing. It was, oh, I never thought about this. And what about this? And what about this? One of the things that was really apparent, he was asking me questions from his community, and one of his, I don't remember the content of the questions right now, but one of his questions was, if you're going to do this, and it was all coaching questions. If you're going to do this, whatever this is, I don't remember, should I do A or B? And my answer was none of the above. And then the next question was, if you want to do this, should I do A or B? And I was like, none of the above. And it was just interesting that 2 questions in a row were positioning as though there was a fork in the road. And the 2 answers were both wrong, in my opinion, wrong. That like, there's so many steps before you even get to that fork. But that was a new thought to me. And it only came because of the questions. So when we invite this flow of questions to come in, I just got a visual, like in a car, you can switch to the little flip of you switch to where the air comes through the car versus the air staying inside the car. Like when people give you their questions, they're actually co-creating with you. And it pulls more out of us, especially those of us that know our subject. A lot of times we know our subject so well, our knowledge is locked inside of our perspective, and we're no longer asking some of these questions, especially from a different perspective, which is what we're going to dive into today. And because we're not asking a lot of those questions, then it's not flowing in a way that they being your seeker, needs it to flow. So most of you, if you pay attention to anything that I say, that Michelle says, anything that we put out on the channel, you are probably more comfortable co-creating in a question answering mode than you are pre-creating in a sales mode. Let us know if you resonate with that, if you agree with that. What I find is that most people who are afraid of doing courses or afraid of doing lives or afraid of doing something out in the public, most of the time it's because they're forcing themselves to do something that's out of their lane. And if they were to just do what's in their lane, it would actually be easier. But they don't see a whole lot of people modeling what's in their lane. So they think there's only one lane. And therefore, they're forcing themselves into misalignment. And then a lot of the fears come from the misalignment. You all have genius zones, you have lanes, you have strengths. And if you put all of those together and align the recipe to your strength combination, it's amazing how that could just change everything for you. I think the reason that a lot of people are afraid of co-creating is because they're afraid of not knowing what to do or what to say, somebody asking a question that they can't answer. And usually that's just a function of you're trying to teach something you don't know then.
Right.
If you're trying to teach something you don't know, then questions are going to be scary. They're going to be a threat because you're afraid of your not knowingness being exposed. But I've never met anybody who's had a fear of the spotlight in any way not have something that they would just teach to the end of time because they have that much certainty. I remember I had I don't know if it was that same little mini seminar where the woman answered the question, stepped forward and had all this confidence. It might have been, it might have been another one, but it was a fear of speaking. And this woman was just telling me how afraid she was of speaking and people seeing her and so forth. So I brought her up in front of the room because, you know, if somebody tells me they're afraid of the spotlight, the next thing I do is try to figure out how to get them in the spotlight.
It's the only place they'll heal.
It really, truly is the only way that we can give them something that they can experience and actually feel. So I brought her up in the front of the room, and she was visibly shaking and like really terrified. And I asked her what she wants to teach, and I forget what it is right now. But then I asked her if she's a child, if she has children, and she said yes. And then I said, just tell me about what do you have, a son, a daughter, what? And I think she said a son. And I said, tell me about him. And she just shifted. And I asked her a few questions about being a mom and if she has any advice for moms. And she just, the energy in her body just shifted. And in that moment, all of the fear of the spotlight went away. I didn't ask the audience to ask her questions, but had I, she would have had no fear because she knows being a mom.
Right.
So when we're afraid of the spotlight, a lot of times that's a sign that you're out of alignment with your certainty zone. When you're in your certainty zone, people asking questions is an opportunity for you to teach more. For you teachers, that's exciting. I like teaching anything, anywhere, to anyone who wants to learn something that I know how to teach. I'm a teacher. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm a teacher. Most of you, again, if you're following this channel, you are teachers. Otherwise, I would have irritated you a long, long time ago. Yeah. If you're a teacher, we got to get you into teaching mode so that you can do your work in an authentic way that's passionate for you, that's exciting, and all of that is going to draw people in. The strategy on top of that, or a strategy on top of that, is this concept of conversion content. So if you're going to teach a lesson or you're going to just share a story or something, there are ways to make content convertible. Of course, I just had the visual of a convertible car, like, you know, put the top down. I don't really see the exact analogy there, but it's kind of like you can have a car and the top can be up or the top can be down. You can have content that creates conversion or not. You can have essentially the same story that shuts people down or invites people to stand up. And some of the distinction is just so tiny. It could literally be changing the word me to we, or changing my to our,
right?
Or the opposite, changing our to my.
Right.
Little tiny, tiny distinctions, you guys, could make the world of difference.
Sure.
Now, we're not going to teach the depths of that because it actually won't be relevant. Yeah. Michelle mentioned in one of the other classes how often we try to perfect the irrelevant. We try to get good at things that are not relevant to us, and that actually slows us down. Right. So until you're at the place where you know the path that you want to convert people down, explaining how to do it doesn't make sense. So we're going to do that in eSchool. Remember, we have you for a whole year there. And there are things that we got to get to before we're ready to create the conversion content. But we at least want you to understand that all creation is not the same. When creation has different purposes, you've got to be aligned with your purpose. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and it's also not an all the time thing. So I just want to, meaning that this is how you want to do it all the time. So I want to just remind everybody of what you said at the very beginning, Sean, which is there's a lot of different types of content. This is just one type of content. So for some of you, this is where you're going to focus. For some of you, you're just going to do this exercise so you can kind of get a feel of it, but it's not where you're at in your journey right now. So I don't want you to hear, because I know for me, I would hear conversion and I would be like, early on in my journey, be like, oh, I want clients. I need to do that. That's my next thing. And so if that's you, I just want to speak to that and say, possibly not. So,
and you would want to do it all the time.
Yeah, that this is the thing that I should, this is the right thing to do. Conversion equals clients equals this is the right thing to do. And that is not what we're saying. This is the purpose inside of this whole challenge, is for you to explore the different ways to create content And there are different types of content, and this is just one of them. So if your brain starts to go where my brain went, and let me know if that goes there for you, right? Of just, oh, conversion equals right, because that's the thing that I need. I just want you to recognize that's happening and slow that process down, because this is not the right thing to do all of the time.
Yeah. Another way to put that is you learn a law and apply it like a rule.
Right.
So you learn a concept of conversion and then go, oh, I got to do that all the time, especially if you want clients or you want sales. And then it just creates this frenetic energy of all the time, I got to do it right. Add in the perfectionism there. And now I can feel my body just going, whoa, what just happened, man? Like I just felt my activation of all this pressure inside. And that's basically what we're doing. And one way to not invite conversion or movement toward you is to stand with a fire hose and give them all this pressure coming from you to them. And that's essentially what's happening. If the pressure is coming from inside of you as the leader, it's going at them. Now there are ways to unlock pressure from inside of them. And that's one of the ways to invite movement. Won't get into that. But when we're creating the pressure, you got to understand that energy is going against everybody else outside of you.
Right.
Because the pressure is coming from you, and don't even for a moment think you can hide that.
Yeah, you can't.
Don't for a moment think that they don't know.
Yeah. They won't be able to articulate it.
Right.
But you'll be coming to us being like, hey, I did what you said to do and it's not converting. So that's how you'll know.
Yeah. You're fire hosing them with pressure.
Right. Yeah.
So a distinction that we want to give you today is before the breakthrough content versus after the breakthrough content.
Yeah.
Here's what most of us have experienced. We were somewhere in our life. We wanted to learn something. We learned it. We had a breakthrough. We turn around and we want to teach it. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it is, right? That could be a quick thing, like I learned how to get rid of debt, or it could be a long-term thing, like I learned how to fall in love with myself and attract the relationship that I want, or lose weight and keep it off, or whatever. So the amount of time obviously can vary, but that's essentially the teacher's journey. Oh, we got to write that. The teacher's journey.
Done.
Joseph Campbell has the hero's journey, but I don't think a lot of people really resonate with hero. Oh. But what's the teacher's journey? The teacher's journey is really somebody who learns something and turns around and wants to teach it. And that's pretty much it. And we don't want the spotlight and we don't want the money. And actually the idea of making money off the things that we want to just sacredly teach shuts us down more than excites us. And when so many people are talking about make money off your stuff and charge what you're worth and all this, that actually shuts the teacher down more than excites the teacher. And that doesn't mean that the teachers have to be poor and we can't make money. It's just what's aligned with our true desires, right? So you can make money as a byproduct, absolutely, of teaching. But what's going to fuel you? What's going to fuel you is your teacher identity, not your salesperson identity.
Yes.
So what usually happens is we are like, imagine there's a big staircase in front of you, just a straight staircase, or your staircase can be spiral or take turns. All that's fine. Whatever it is. However, your staircase, So I was just about to say, what did your staircase look like? But then I know nobody's staircase is going to be straight up. Now you're going to be like an MC Escher painting, right? Oh, here's what my staircase looked like. It looked like this thing that's actually not mathematically or scientifically possible. It went up and out and then again through itself and then came back around, right? So I get it. I think all of us, and if you're not familiar with MC Escher, you can look him up online or somebody posted in the group or something. He draws these paintings, or drew, that like they're impossible, right? But they're like optical illusions, kind of, right? So I'm sure we all look back and we see, the MC Escher staircase. Let's say, just for the sake of this, that it's just a straight up staircase. You're at the bottom of the stairs. You see a door up there. You want that door. You want what you believe is on the outside of that door. Doesn't even matter if it's right or not, or if it was proven to be correct or not. From the bottom of the stairs, you want the other side of that door.
Mm.
So what will you be asking? What will you be typing into Google? What will you be asking your friends about? What will you be thinking about? You'll be thinking about, what is life like on the other side of that door?
Mm.
And as you look up at that door, you're actually not looking at the steps.
Mm.
If you do look at the steps, think of the perspective you have of the steps. Oh, this is going to be good. The perspective you have of the steps changes at eye level.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the first step, you can see the top of the step.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how far away it is, maybe how tall you are, the angle, you might be able to see the front of the step, the front facing part of the step, right? Because every step is a right angle. So you might be able to see the front facing part. As you gaze your eyes upwards, when you're looking at about a 45-degree angle down, you'll be able to see the top and the front.
Mm-hmm.
At eye level, you'll only be able to see the front, and everything above there, you can see less and less of the front.
Right.
Because they're blocked with the steps in front of it. If the steps are long enough, there's going to be a point at some point, or if they're steep enough, where you can't even see the front. You can't see the front or the top of the steps. So now let's say you do this work, you climb up those steps, you get on the other side of the door, you realize as soon as you open and close that door, it's like you open the door, you close it, you shut it, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to turn around and see heaven. Oh, there's more steps? Okay. So then you go up those steps and there's a new door. That's a better door. You can't wait to get on the other side of that door. So you go up there and open the door and turn around, and there's more steps. And then there's doors. And then this is where it becomes the MC Escher map. But let's say that you get on the other side of the door that finally works for you. It's the thing that you want to teach other people. It's where you experience the breakthrough. Then you turn around and somebody's all the way down at the end of the steps. How many front of the steps can you see?
All of them.
I think you were answering a different question than what I asked.
Okay.
As we look down to the person all the way down there, how many front of the steps can you see?
None.
How many tops of the steps can you see?
All of them.
So when you tell people about the staircase, what are you going to tell them about?
The top of the steps. That's what I can see.
Makes sense. And we've gone, I've never had this vision until today. This is why we turn around and we're talking about the same step. I'm just telling you about the front. I'm telling you about the top while you're looking at the front. If all we do is tell people about the top of the steps, the majority of them they can't see.
Right.
And we don't speak to their front of the steps view, we'll never match their vision. Which is why your message is meaningful and not marketable. Your message could be something that people need, but it doesn't cause them to take steps.
Yeah.
By the way, I know I do this all the time.
Sure.
Because we're teachers.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I and all of you have fallen in love with those steps. Why? Because you're after the breakthrough. So now your mind associates the outcome with the process that it took for you to get there. And looking down, it doesn't matter how many sets of stairs you ended up going through, looking down, it feels good. And a lot of times it makes us feel better the more sets of stairs there are, because it reminds us how long we've come. So we actually associate pride a lot of times and love, or the positive experiences, the happiness, the money, whatever the outcome is on the other side of the final stair, the final step, we associate all of that to the whole process. And then somebody goes, I want to be where you are. And then we go, let me tell you about all these steps. It's so good. Let me tell you, there's actually 7 doors. You think there's one, it's funny, but there's 7. Let me teach you the back side of the door, which is the only one I see now, from door number 7 backwards. The back of door number 7 looks like this. And then the back of door number 6, the one with the tops of the steps that you don't understand, is what it will lead you to that. And the back of door number 4 is the one, that's the one that really threw me for a loop. But I had already gone up 3 steps. And then at that time you look around and go, hey, where'd you guys go?
Right.
And all of that is necessary, but not inviting. And it's not that people don't want to hear this. It's they literally cannot comprehend what the top of the step looks like or feels like. And it's almost impossible for us to go back to the bottom of the staircase. Because we'll never actually go back there. You can never take that journey away from us, but we have to like teleport ourselves back down there so that we see their model of the world and we remember, I remember what the front of that step looked like for me. I remember what I was willing to do to lift my foot up. And I remember the fear that I had. The fear that I had from step number 1 is different than the fear that I now know I had from step number 8. But when I was in front of step number 1, I didn't even know there was a step number 8 because I was hoping there was only 1.5 steps and I could just skip the first one and only do the half of the second one and be on the other side of that door. So we need to remember, that's why we always say your most valuable asset is the perspective of your seeker.
Yeah.
And even if you look back to your seeker, this just lit something up for me. Even if you look back to your seeker at the bottom of those steps, this is what I did for a long time. I'm like, listen, I'm going to give you I don't know, what is it called where there's like a motorized seat that can go up the steps, whatever it is. I always use the ski lift analogy, but whatever, like the staircase version of the little ski lift, the motorized seat that goes up the steps.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, listen, I built you this motorized seat. Not that I was trying to get them to not have to do the work, but I was excited because I let them know that I'm giving them a better way to get all the way up here. But I'm essentially offering them this gigantic ski slope or this gigantic ski lift, and all they see is the bunny slope. Like, why would I need that big old, like, that's crazy, but I'm not going to the top of the mountain. I'm just going right there where I can see. And so a lot of times we look back and we construct something that is truthful. This is why it's really difficult for us as teachers. It's truthful, and we don't think like salespeople. Salespeople think, how can I sell the step? And that's not to say anything bad about salespeople, because that skill is really important. You got to sell the step. But we look back and we don't think in a way that we need to get them to just start taking steps. We think of the top of the step perspective and all the things we're talking about. And then a lot of times we will construct something for them, either literally like it. This is one of the reasons why it's terrible, in my experience, for teachers to pre-record their whole online course when they don't really fully know what people are going to go through in the journey.
Yep.
Because you'll probably build something that they can't comprehend.
Yeah. And they don't
And
need.
you're building from top of the step perspective.
Right.
Oh. How much time we have left? We only have like 3 hours left, right?
Right.
Got to go fast. All right. So tell me if this is landing for you, because this is a brand new visual that's like being constructed in my mind. But it's everything for us to understand.
Yeah.
That they can't comprehend it.
And they don't see the relevancy of it either, because all they see is the front of the step. So what you're trying to, because I do this, I've done it, is we're trying to sell them something that they don't actually even connect to as relevant. They don't even know exists. They don't know that they need it because they can't see it. They don't have the same vision that we do now.
So yes, and we talk a lot about finding your seeker and identifying the person that you really want to teach. You also have to understand their perspective.
Yeah.
Because you could be teaching to the right person from the wrong perspective.
Yeah.
And then it's not aligned.
Right.
Or you could be teaching the right perspective to the wrong person.
Right.
And it's not aligned.
Not aligned. Yeah.
You could be teaching the front of the step perspective of the wrong staircase to the wrong person. And they're still not going up. So again, we want you to understand that there are nuances here. There are distinctions. Okay, who's your person? Where are they? What's their next step? What staircase do they have? What door are they looking for? How can we teach in a way that actually gets them to take steps? And that's different than teaching about the whole staircase. And I did this so much, you guys. The reason this is like activating me right now is because I'm essentially just telling on myself all the things I did wrong for so long. And I still had success, right? Because even just getting out there and lighting yourself on fire and being excited and teaching stuff is still going to create a level of success. But as I look back, especially in the coaching world, and some of the first things that I did is I taught from the top of the staircase perspective to the people that didn't have the relevancy, didn't have the urgency, and they had the desire, but I just wasn't teaching them with this awareness that I have now of what's going to convert. Thankfully, we didn't do eSchool back then. And all of those programs were required for eSchool to be what eSchool is going to be, because everything I'm saying now, that's going to be in our curriculum. There was when we talked about comprehension earlier today, another vision that I had is like, imagine that you are in your house and you've never been outside of your house, and somebody tries to tell you where to go. Let's say that you got to go to somewhere like a mile away, but you've never been outside of this house. And so this person is going, that's okay, I'll tell you exactly how to get there. You're going to come out of this house, you're going to close the door. Don't forget to lock the door, because you got to lock the door, and there's a code on the door, and you got to make sure you lock the door. And then when you come out, there's a couple steps when you come off the porch, and then go to the end of the driveway and then take a right. And then, wait, I don't know if there's a tree there, if there's a bush, but when you get there, you're just going to keep going straight for a little bit longer. And then you're going to take a left, and there's going to be a corner there. There's usually like a stand. People are selling like lemonade or Girl Scout cookies or stuff like that. And then you're going to go a little bit ways, and then there's a stoplight, and there's only a cross, like, all right. So just multiply that times a mile, right?
Yeah.
And the poor person inside of the house is going, there's a code,
right,
to
Wait,
lock the door? Why would there be a code? Wait, is it scary outside? Is it dangerous?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So now, and then as soon as they get out of the code thing, they're like, now you're at a bush or a tree.
Right.
They don't remember what just happened, right? And I imagine at some point, some of you have been given directions that way through a territory you're unfamiliar with. How many times did you want those directions to be gone through again so that you got them?
Yeah. I don't even remember what you just said.
Right. So tell me again.
Wait, What?
How far is the driveway?
Right.
Is it a hard right, or is it a like more of a curvy?
Right.
Like, what is it? Oh, I just had an idea of what we'll do in e-school. Just jot that down in the notes. I'm not gonna tell it, but this is one of the most profound lessons that we'll put into the coaching context. So when you're giving somebody to turn right and go left, and it might be a bush or it might be a tree, and you just go a little ways, right? All of those are perspectives. Those are all subjective. Those are all, sometimes they're opinions, sometimes they're judgments, and sometimes people actually don't need to go right. Just because you went right doesn't mean they need to go right.
Correct.
What if there's a car in the street? Well, he told me.
Right.
I have this wonderful story about my son. So he's driving now. He took his driving test about 3 months ago. And this kid applies laws like rules in some areas. And driving was really important to him. Driving is a dangerous thing. And so before he really felt, like in his body behind the wheel, he was really like rigid with what he was told. And he was told that if you cross a double yellow line, you instantly fail. And something happened as soon as he came out, when he took his driving test and he had the driving instructor. As soon as he came out, something happened that would have required him, in order to stay safe, to cross a double yellow line. But he didn't. So he did something else. And I don't remember if he sped up or slowed down. He did something else that was actually more dangerous than crossing the double yellow. But in his mind, there's a law. You don't cross a double yellow. If you do, you fail. In that moment, he actually put himself and the driving instructor in more danger, because there wasn't a law or a rule for the circumstance that just showed up for him.
Yeah.
And he failed his driving test immediately, inside of like 45 seconds. The guy's like, and he was angry, and Exley's, sensitive. And so he was destroyed. And we had to talk to him about, like, sometimes there are circumstances that create exceptions for the rules.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of us can't actually comprehend. It's like, all right, yes, this is the street you have to cross. But if there's a car coming, wait.
Right.
But then if we tell people, wait before you cross, they might just wait.
Right.
Like, there's so many, it depends.
Yeah, it's nuanced
in the whole process. All right. So the whole idea here is to get you to understand the difference between before the breakthrough and after the breakthrough. The front of the steps versus the top of the steps, looking down. So what we're going to give you is an assignment for before the breakthrough. Now, depending on where you are and how much content you've created, this might not be anything new for you, especially if you've done seeker interviews and you've gotten people's answers to some of your questions and you've created content from there. Or some of you, this might be first time, you've never heard this distinction. And so this might be wildly different for you to create before the breakthrough content, but it's really critical. So what was it that you, when you were at the bottom of the stairs, what was it that you were looking at? Because the front of the door is what we're looking at. The back of the door is what we want. The front of the steps is what we see.
Say that again, please.
I will. When we're at the bottom of the steps, what we're looking at is the front of the door. That's all we see. What we want is what we believe is on the back side of the door. We got to get through that door, because on the back side is the thing that we want, whatever that blissful experience is in our belief system. The process, what we see, is the front of the steps. If we look down the very first couple steps, we can see the top, but primarily we see the front of the steps. So how does this translate? This translates into the steps is like, what do I need to do? How do I get over my fear? How do I tell who's a liar out there so I don't ever get into a relationship with somebody who's going to hurt me again? How do I create the right sales? These are usually the right kind of questions. What's the right thing to do? Those are the front of the steps. What's the right step I need to take in order to create the front of the door that I see? So that could be 1,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel, or 5,000 followers on a social media platform, or to have a certain course created, right, and selling in your sleep, the scalability of online courses. So that's what you want. Now, why do you want that? Because on the backside of that is freedom. On the backside of that is the way you want to live your life. It's the joy and the happiness and the liberation. It's usually going to be some form of freedom is on the other side of that door. The door is the barrier, but we see the front side of the door. So that's what we think we need to create in order to experience the backside of the door, or what's on the backside of the door, right? And then the steps is the how-to questions. What do I do in order to build that? Does that make sense to you, Michelle?
It does. Yeah. Well, let me say it back to you and make sure.
Perfect.
What I'm hearing is that the front of the door is the tangible thing that I want when I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
What's on the other side of that door is why I want that tangible thing. So I want that tangible thing because I believe that I will feel or I will experience fill in the blank on the other side of that. I'll be able to be happy. I'll have my freedom, right? I'll finally be able to love myself, those types of things. And so when I'm at the bottom of the stairs, then what I'm seeing at the front of the stairs are the steps that I believe I need to take from my perspective to get that tangible thing that I want, that's going to give me the feeling that I want to feel.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll break this down, and even this is becoming like a really, hopefully a clear, could be even a diagnostic to some degree.
Sure.
But this is what people are asking. This is what they're wanting. This is what they're focused on. This is what from the opposite side and the perspective. That's why you got to get back to what they are asking, right? So the assignment today, do you want to go through the assignment? Why don't you do the assignment?
I love this assignment. Yeah. So what we want you to do is show up and serve. We want you to answer questions. So we want you to capture the questions that are already being asked by your seeker. So Liz, I believe in chat, asked, like, other than seeker interviews, what's another place that we can get perspectives of our seekers? Do the seeker interviews, okay? And you could look inside of communities or Facebook groups, right, that your seeker is a part of, and see what are the questions that they're asking, right? Inside of those Facebook groups, people are looking to have problem solved. They might say, hey, how do you deal with a child who this, or a spouse who this, or business questions? What are the questions that are already being asked by your seeker? FAQs in communities or Facebook groups is one way. The main way that we really want you to focus is to connect with just one or two of your seekers. So these could be people that you've interviewed already, or people who are on your interview list that you haven't reached out to yet. And we just want you to ask them 3 simple questions. All right. So we'll put this in the chat here in the video, and we'll also post this in the Facebook group. But 3 simple questions. Number 1, what are the keyword phrases, right? What are they typing into Google? What are they asking Siri? What are they asking Alexa? What is it that they are researching? What are they reading blog articles about? What are they information specifically are they looking for?
What are they literally typing in?
Exactly, right? Because most people are not, it's different than what we think. What are they literally typing in? That's really critical. Number two, what are the questions that you go to bed thinking about, right? So the first question I want to ask is, what are the keywords or phrases you're typing into Google? So there's somebody walking outside of my house, and that's a threat around here to my dogs. The second one is, what are the questions that you go to bed thinking about? So what are you lying in bed at night thinking about? What are the questions specifically? Use that word. And then number three, what are your biggest challenges right now? It could be day to day, could be week to week. What are your biggest challenges that you are trying to solve? So what keywords or phrases are you literally typing into Google? What are the questions that you're going to bed thinking about? And what are your biggest challenges day to day or week to week that you're trying to solve? And then what we want you to do is we want you to outline, not a full article, not a full video, but outline your answers to their 3 frequently asked questions.
So you're just going to pick 3.
Yep.
You might have a list of 10 at this point, depending on how much access you might have to seekers or how forthright they are with their information. But there's 3 steps here. The first step is to generate your own frequently asked questions. And you could go into the Facebook group. You could just check in with yourself. What were the questions you were asking when you were before the breakthrough? What are the questions, if you have clients now, what are a lot of questions that you know they're asking? What do you end up doing in your coaching? So get as much of the frequently asked questions as you can from what you already know and what you already have access to in Facebook groups or communities that you're a part of, etc. The second thing is, if you're able to, connect with 1 or 2 of your seekers and ask them those 3 questions, those literal 3 questions. What keywords are you typing in? What are the questions you go to bed thinking about? What are your biggest challenges that you're trying to solve? So you're asking those questions from them. They're giving you answers. So you've got your own list of FAQs, frequently asked questions. You've got their answers to those 3 questions. Now you've got that information. Pick 3 of those things and write an outline, not a full article, just outlines. Like we said yesterday, 3 to 5 minutes each outline. We don't want this to take a whole lot of time. We just want your creative juices to start flowing. We don't want you to produce something already, unless you're already in production mode. And the next step for you is to go ahead and produce an article. But for most of you, that's not going to be the step. So we will put this in the comment section here so that you can see. If you have any questions, let us know. Tag us. We'll put this in. Should we put in an email? I guess not everybody is on the same email list. Let's just go ahead and put it in the email as though everybody watched the video, because everybody watches every video that
they all
every
do.
minute of every video that I've ever done.
Yep.
That's what I tell myself.
We'll
So
also post it in the Facebook group. So it's here in the chat.
We'll put it everywhere. Yes. We'll send it to your home. We'll just get it everywhere in the ethers. Chad said, "What challenge?"
Exactly. Thank you, Chad.
Let's see. Report and remove. Let's see. How do we do that with this Facebook user?
He's gone. He's banned.
Block user. Yes. Awesome.
He's
all right, you guys.
Angry emoji. That's my guess.
What was that?
He's probably the one who gave us the angry emoji.
The angry emoji. Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. All right. So we wanted to share with you these in the moment analogies that came just right before, literally like right before we turn the camera on. And hopefully this is helpful to you, just to remember, what does it actually mean to speak to people where they are?
Yeah.
And why is it challenging? And you're not going to be able to just do this easily all the time. Like I said, we've been teaching the concept, even though this analogy is new, we've been teaching the concept for a long, long time. And I mean, I break the concept all the time because we're teachers, right? But I would rather you be a teacher and teach from the process and then learn how to change the perspective than the opposite way.
Yeah.
What a lot of people are experiencing is programs or people that can really teach, or not teach, but sell the steps, but they actually don't have a process
Right.
that they can teach that takes people to the doors that we're looking for. Because marketers actually don't have to produce an outcome to get sales. Teachers have to produce an outcome to feel good about ourselves.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that marketers are soulless or anything like that. But some of them are. But I want to make this real big distinction. People don't actually have to have the process fulfilled to keep buying their fantasies, to keep hoping that this really is a 2.5-step process. And many of us have bought things that we hoped were going to take us somewhere, and we were disappointed, and yet we still are tempted, or we're still buying those things. So the reason I bring that up is not to create a distinction between salespeople or throw shade on people or anything like that. It's the temptation of the human brain. The human brain wants to know what the next step is, and we're tempted, and that's what creates movement. That's what creates action. So if we continue to not feed the human brain what the brain is hungry for, then we won't have any followers. We won't have people that are actually taking steps. So I would rather you come from a teaching identity, unlock that creativity, and then learn how to sell it.
Yeah.
Than to be really good at sales, learn how to get people's action,
Right.
and then learn how to deliver.
Yeah. It's better this way. Easier for sure. And feels better and more aligned, I think, for most people.
Yeah. That's relative depending on our own individual perspective and how long we've been trying things and so forth.
Yeah.
But if any of that lands with you guys, then you're in the right place. We get you. We got you. And can't wait to see and hear about your outline. So post the assignment today in the Facebook group. If you don't know what the Facebook group is, if you're not in there, bit.ly/e-training-for-coaches. We'll take you to the Facebook group, and that's where the party is happening.
There were 2 questions that came in, and I don't know if we want to answer them here or inside of the Facebook group. But
I don't like questions.
Okay, perfect.
And I don't like answering questions.
Well, yeah, I believe in your ability to fake it for just a minute. One was asked about what if we don't have a seeker? Can we still do this process?
Yep, just pick anything. You can do the process even if the seeker isn't aligned. If you just pick anybody, they are a seeker. They might not be seeking what you're ultimately going to give them, but you can still ask them what questions, what are they typing in, what burning questions they have, and they'll give you answers. The process can be done if you don't yet know who your individual seeker is. The process can still be done by a seeker, and then it'll allow you to answer some questions.
Thank you for that. And then Kevin had asked, can you speak again a little bit to number 3, where we said to take the captured questions and answer them in an outline? He isn't really clear what that means.
Yeah. So we want you to just, and not like a full outline, not like an academic outline where you've got an introduction paragraph and a closing paragraph or any of that sort of stuff. It's just like if somebody was in front of you and they had this question. The question was, going back to the teacher example from a long time ago, how do you create better classroom discipline? And then the teacher would just go, okay, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. So if somebody were to ask you a question, literally, like if you were just writing sticky note outline,
Yeah.
what would you say? Just to get your thoughts out. You don't even have to put them in order necessarily. We just want to unlock the question answering creativity inside of you. So it could just be even like just 3 bullet points, 5 bullet points, this story, just almost anything that comes out of you in outline form, short form, not full on polished form. And that's what we mean.
Nice.
Hopefully that answers your question, Kevin.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, then comment and tag us here in the video or in the Facebook group and let us know, and we'll support you.
Excellent. All right, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully this outline, this assignment is helpful to you in all these conversations, and we'll see you tomorrow on our next class.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.